Okay, let's talk a little bit about the setup to hitting quality wedge shots. I want to talk first of all about stance width, a little bit about ball position, a little bit about where the weight or pressure on the feet should be, and finally one of the key concepts is handle position relative to the club head. So first of all, stance width. Now, on a typical iron shot, you're going to be roughly around shoulder width, but because this is, remember, a finesse shot, I want your stance to be slightly closer than shoulder width. I'm going to also recommend that your feet or your baseline, your aim is slightly left of the target if you're a right-handed golfer. I also want you to take your lead toe, your left toe, and point it out or towards the target just ever so slightly. Now, the reason for that, when we talk about the motion, is that the little bit of left aim, the toe pointed slightly, is going to allow you to keep your body rotating and keep the club in front of you, which we'll talk about a little bit later when we get into the motion. So that's a little bit about stance width and kind of positioning there. Now, ball position. Where do we want the ball to be positioned? I like the ball basically in the center of the stance. A lot of people will play their wedges and they'll move the ball way back in the stance. In my opinion, that's a definite mistake. I want the ball positioned in the middle of the stance, all right, because that's where the low point is at. We talked a little bit about low point when we discussed irons. If you haven't seen that, be sure to check that out. Some great information there. So we want the ball to be basically in the center of the stance. Now, pressure on the feet, or what you might feel as weight, one of the most overlooked concepts in the setup. All right, we talked a little bit about this also in the iron videos that I did for you as well. I want you to feel a little bit more weight or pressure on the lead foot. I like the 60-40 split. About 60% on the lead foot, about 40 back. That really centers your turn and helps you control the low point, which is a key to iron play and, of course, also wedge play. Now, the most important thing in the setup, in my opinion, is the relationship between the handle and the club head. And here's what you need to remember, is that when you change this relationship, you change the loft on the golf club. So if I've got a 54-degree lofted club here, and I move my hands way in front of the ball, or move the handle way forward, I've de-lofted the golf club. So now this club does not have 54 degrees, it has much less than that. And that is a disaster waiting to happen. So what do you want? Well, when you're set up there, you want the handle to be neutral. So if the club head is behind the ball, you want the handle equal with the ball. So is it in front? Yes, but ever so slightly. Do not be one of these golfers who moves the handle way in front when you get ready to hit a wedge shot, because it is a recipe for disaster. So let's do a quick recap here. What are we looking for in the setup? We want a stance that's a little less than shoulder width apart. We want a little bit of slight aim to the left so you can keep rotating through the shot. We want the ball to be positioned basically in the center of the stance. That allows us to get have the club come in contact at that low point. We also want a little bit of pressure forward, 60-40 split. We want that. We want a neutral position between the handle and the club head. So when we have those concepts in place, now we can start to talk a little bit about the motion. It's time for me to share some insight in how we can make a good swing with the wedges and hit the shot we're looking for. Most golfers don't realize how easy it is to improve their game when they're provided quality information from a quality source. Be sure to click on the provided link and start seeing your game improve today.